Oh, this is the little yellow train. It's a narrow gauge train that takes you to all these places. I've actually ridden that train because I visited her there. All right. So let's reflect on reflections, shall we? Let's have some reflections. Hello. Oh, it won't stop. I'm just going to let it keep going. Actually, I should turn this around so I can eventually stop it. Oops, not that way. There we go. Nathan. Nathan. All right. This whole apparatus costs like $600, so if you see it on the counter and you want to play with it, don't play with it. Okay? It's really fragile, but basically it's a device designed to let you demonstrate waves, and it's very slow. The waves travel very slow because what they've got in the center is a little bit of spring steel. And spring steel is steel that you might make a spring with. It's very springy steel. And then they've got these brass bars on there, and they've laid them across like that, and the motion is a torsion like that. And there's tons of inertia for those bars moving up and down, and there's not all that much twistiness, so they've maximized the inertia, minimized the springy force, restoring it, and they've made a really, really slow wave like this. Okay? Now, the concept for reflections is that reflections occur whenever there is an abrupt change in the medium. Reflections occur whenever there's an abrupt change in the medium. So if light is traveling through air and it hits glass, well, that's a change in the medium. Light can travel through glass, but some reflects off the glass. You know this, don't you? Like that time of day when you're driving behind a car and like the sun is like glaring off the back window of the car ahead of you. Yes? And you're like, ah, ha, ha, right? You know, right? Your eyes are bleeding because of this, right? Light travels through water. It actually slows down when it reaches water, and also slows down in glass. It can travel through water, but doesn't it reflect off the water? Because the water is an abrupt change, right? Sound can travel through concrete. I know this. If you pound on concrete with a hammer, you can hear it really well far away. In fact, it travels really fast through concrete. But when I yell at a concrete wall, a lot of the energy, most of it bounces off the wall. And I hear an echo. Yeah? Yeah, yeah? Okay. So that's the sort of thing we're talking about here, right?
What's moving your voice a hammer?
Well, a hammer is probably better at moving some of it will go into the concrete, not too much, right? Because it's such a huge change, right? The hammer is probably good at getting the sound into the concrete because you're actually moving the concrete more than the air, right? I'm thinking, yeah.
So if you had like a light source underwater,
yeah,
up towards the top of the water,
yeah,
would it, like reflect off the air back into the
yeah, it actually reflects back into the water. So if you've ever, and I do this sometimes, if you ever lie down on the bottom of a pool, right? I can do this because I've got a low enough, I don't know, body fat or something that if I let enough air out of my lungs, I can just lie there on the bottom of the pool. Lifeguards deeply don't like this, right? If you lie stationary on the bottom of the pool, that's when that big hook thing comes down and like, to pull you in, right? So tell the lifeguard that you're going to do that, right? But if you lie there and just look up, you can actually see, it's actually funny, we'll talk about why this is, but you'll actually see that at some angle it reflects totally and you only see the pool, right? At some point you actually see what's out there, but it's distorted because of the refraction. But it does reflect, you know, you see reflections. I like to sit on the bottom of the pool and blow, not smoke rings, but bubble rings. You can kind of go, and you can make little rings that, yeah. You don't like to do that, but I do. I like to do that. Okay, and then you can, I can just show you this, right? There's a little rule here for these things. If I send an up pulse down on this end, this is a free end, okay? And so if I send an up pulse down, watch what it comes back as. Doesn't it come back as an up pulse? Yeah, that's kind of cool, right? We could write that down even. Okay, so if I send an up pulse comes back as an up pulse, right? So send Popeye's arm down, right? If this is a free end, then what we get is a little thing back like that. And then, of course, you know, what do you suppose is going to happen if I fix the other end? What do you think? Since I'm saying that it comes back upright, the guess would be, if this was on a multiple choice test, that not upright, right? It's going to be inverted. So let's just see what happens here. Send an up pulse. It comes back as a down pulse. There we go, right? And this shows you how it happens, right? It's they go through frame by frame. That's a crazy thing, right? So if it's a fixed end, if we send an up pulse down, then it comes back as the bottom side of Popeye's arm when he's 70 years old. That's not so good. Right. So if you think about this, there's sound has fixed and free ends, right? Okay. Let's take this thing, right? This penny whistle has an open end. That's a free end for sound. Sound, the air can move back and forth there, right? But if I have a pipe like this, right? This end is a fixed end for sound, right? It's got one free end, it's got one fixed end. Fixed because it can't move, right? So fixed just means the medium can't move in the way it normally moves, right? Okay. Light, of course, will reflect off buildings. Is that the Empire State Building? I think so, right? So there it is, you know, reflecting off the windows there. It's reflecting off the surface of the water. This is some woman who did a thing about reflections, but it's reflecting here. There's actually two reflections if you're clever, and you could see them. You can't see them in this picture, but it's reflecting off the front of the glass. It's also reflecting off the silvering on the back of the glass, right? Here she's showing a partial reflection, so there's a sheet of glass there, and it's partly reflecting her image, and then partly you can see what's behind the glass, right? And then if you look behind Laurel in that cabinet there, okay, that thing that's a mirror is actually just a half silvered mirror, and behind it is a television that no longer works because it's an analog tuner, right? But the notion is that if I turn that television on and it was brighter behind it, right, then you would see the television through that. But if you turn off the TV, it looks like a mirror. It's like when you go to places where they've got those, usually they've got these things as like, there's like a security guard behind them. Yeah? Those windows, you know what I'm talking about? Some stores have these, and it's just there's somebody there watching you, but you can't see them watch you. So walk up to those mirrors that you know are actually windows, and just kind of, there's two things you can do that's fun. Go like this, and make it darker on your side, and then you can see them. They don't like that. You're like just look at them, right? Or the other thing is just pretend that you think it's a mirror and do some sort of grooming thing that they probably don't want to watch, you know? You know, just kind of start picking at your teeth or something like that. You know, I don't know. That's kind of fun. You just have a little fun with them, right? And then, of course, obviously, you know, you get up, there's a couple reasons to get up early in the morning, right? The wind generally doesn't blowing yet, and so you can get, you know, artsy-fartsy images like that, right? Like, ooh, fartsy, right? Sound, we used to sit on the lake, and we would say, we had this lake that reflected sound off, and it would reflect off the trees, right? We go, hey, and they go, hey, rah, rah, right? Nuts to you, you know, and things like that, right? And eventually our parents would be like, you know, you really shouldn't be yelling stuff like that, right? When I was a camp counselor, I had this epiphanal moment where there was an echo that was so loud and so delayed that I could do, I'm going to leave, and it's an echo song. Somebody else sings, I'm going to leave, old Texas now, I got no room, they got no room, for the longhorn cow, for the longhorn. And it was like this reflection off the end of the lake. It was like, I don't know, tears came to my eyes. My campers were crying too. Take me away. This is a space, a cathedral, and it's, you know, it's concrete. It's not